Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Yapyat Sarvam Trilokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vedya Dravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhikamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So last week, we began this very important and to some people controversial section on Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And to review a little bit of the controversy, there are schools of Advaitins who say Nirvikalpa is not necessary. And those people will then say either this section is an interpolation into Shankara's text, or Shankara didn't write Vivekachudamani. I am not a textual scholar. All I can tell you, reviewing from last week, when the youngsters would take the brahmachari training course, at the end of their 2.5-year training, Swamiji would have them all come up to Siddhabari in the foothills of the Himalayas, and he would teach Vivekachudamani himself. He did not leave that to a subordinate Swami. He always did it himself. And he taught this section. And he himself was certainly a man of very deep samadhi. So we talked a little bit about, there are many kinds of samadhis. Those of us who may have taken a look at the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, they're broken down into all sorts of different samadhis. But for our purposes, we talk about 4. And I'm going to review that. I touched on it last week. The first we call Jada Samadhi. Jada means inert. This is the state sometimes reached by the Hatha yogis, where vasana is still present, but through pranayama and through the bandhas, they're able to momentarily stop the mind. Maybe they just hyperventilate. But for a moment, the thoughting stops. But the experience, though euphoric, is I, the individual, see blank. That's not what we're talking about. Then there's Savikalpa Samadhi. Savikalpa means with the perception of phenomena. So when I talk about when we tune up the mind, just kind of put your thumb on the thinking and endeavoring to take this state into the world. This is Savikalpa Samadhi. From here, it's what you would say oftentimes, just like you're at the doorway of the Savikalpa Samadhi is really all we can practice. It's from here, this deep introversion of the mind, that we work on letting go of attachment and identification, endeavoring to stay identified as that ground of being, that witnessing consciousness, to see the phenomenal world as mithya, not letting the mind extrovert. And when the last vasana is roasted, the mind slips into nirvikalpa, where the personal sense of self is just gone. And the mind returning from nirvikalpa is transformed. It knows beyond a doubt, I'm not a person. In fact, I never was. And then the fourth samadhi we talk about is called sahaja samadhi, natural or continuous samadhi. Meaning it's not necessarily something you practice or endeavor to do. It's the knowledge that it's myself. When are you ever not yourself? Where no identification with the body or the subtle body arises effortlessly. Where all the phenomena of sense perception, mind, and intellect, it's just way in front of you, way far away. All right. What verse are we on, Mark?
347.
347. Puneet, will you help us out, please? So those of you who were not here last week, you might get some value by listening to the YouTube video.
Parava Raikatve Vivekavahni Tahatya Vidya Gahanam Hyashe Sham Kim Syatu Puna San Kim Syat Puna Sansa Ranya Bija Madvaita Bhavam Samupeyusheshyaha. The fire of knowledge that the Jiva is the Brahman entirely consumes the impenetrable forest of avidya or nescience. For him who has realized the state of oneness, is there any seed left for future transmigration?
Yes. So it's not so much that we then need to go back and deal with all the residual little thoughts of this, that, and the other thing. The fire of knowledge burns the whole forest of ignorance. There's no longer any need to do practices. There's nothing to be gained. And again, I finished up with last week. We have to be careful not to make nirvikalpa samadhi another object of desire. Some yogis get all caught up in, I've got to have nirvikalpa, I've got to have nirvikalpa. Those of us who've studied Tripura Rahasya, it's a marvelous section on samadhi in that. And that text talks about there's prakasha, the light of pure awareness, and there's vimarsha, deliberation. Going on all the time. Whenever the mind is free from deliberation, when the thoughting stops, that's technically nirvikalpa. There's a whole section on what the author of that text, Vivekachudamani, calls fleeting samadhis. You get little glimpses all the time. To the ordinary person, they do nothing to free us because we're not paying attention to it. But to the yogi, they can be useful. So here in class, we tune up our mind, introvert the attentive faculty. Maybe pick some sense perception like the sound of the traffic. Who hears it? Who hears it? And you'll have traffic flash, traffic flash, traffic flash. Sense there's nobody there. Am I making sense? Yes, no?
Yeah.
Those are technically little nirvikalpas. Because they reveal the nature of the self. The purpose of samadhi is to reveal your self nature. Now, the problem is if there's still vasana, that person comes back. I've been told there is a scripture that says if nirvikalpa lasts 7 seconds or longer, it's done. Mine just is exploding. I don't know. That's smart enough. Now, again, nirvikalpa, we always teach these two notions. The definition of nirvikalpa samadhi is when the distinction between knower, knowing, and known is merged. There's no person there. There's no knowing, no phenomena. But that's also another definition of the self. How do you know you were you? I don't know, I just know it. Who knows it? I do. What's the means of knowledge? Me. What do you know? Me. I'm nirvikalpa. Am nirvikalpa. Not I'm in nirvikalpa. Both are valid ways to approach it. In Mandukya Upanishad, I can't remember, it's the 3rd chapter of the 4th chapter. Gaudapada will say, for those of middling intellect. Did we already go through that section?
Did. Yeah.
It was in the 3rd chapter.
Like in the 3rd, yeah.
He says control of the mind is necessary. Describing basically meditation and nirvikalpa. There are A++ students hearing the knowledge. It's very clear. But in all of the scriptures where we have stories, please note, Hemaleka is talking to Hemachuda, for example. Hemachuda introverts his mind, goes within, and he's in samadhi for a muhurta. Remember, they always use a muhurta, 48 minutes. That's just a metaphor. But what is the value of samadhi? It absolutely reveals to us the no thingness of the ego. I'm convinced this is what the Buddha meant when he taught there's no self.
Meaning no ego sense.
Yeah. Because
not the void.
In 500 BCE, the term Atman was used in all sorts of ways, depending on a particular scripture. Sometimes it even meant the body, frequently meant the subtle body, and sometimes in the Upanishads it would mean the Supreme Self. He solved the problem by saying, forget it all. We just won't call it that. We'll call it your Buddha nature. So, what is the thing to go after? Be a mumukshu, be a seeker after liberation, be a jinyasu, seeker after knowledge. Do you know who you are? Do you have doubts about your essential nature? Are you convinced that you are that Chidakasha? I mean, that's all there is to it, Jim? Yeah. Do you know where ultimate happiness is? Ram embracing Hanuman, or Hanuman embracing Ram. The mind abiding in the sound. So simple. Yet everybody misses it. All right, next verse.
आवरणस्य निवृत्ति भवति हि सम्यक् पदार्थदर्शनतः मिथ्याज्ञान विनाश तद्विक्षेप जनितदुःख निवृत्तिः. The veil that hides truth gets lifted indeed when reality is fully experienced. Soon follows the destruction of false understanding and the cessation of misery brought about by agitations created by the false knowledge.
So here, Shankara sets out what happens to the equipment as the result of the dawn of knowledge. So first, the veil, the vritti, gets lifted. Remember, what are the two powers of avasana? Avarana Shakti, Vikshepa Shakti. First is veiling power, meaning in my mind I have the non-apprehension of myself. And then there's the subsequent misapprehension. I think I'm a person. Immediately there's a goal. So first thing, the veil gets lifted. When the thoughting stops, the ahankriti stops. Why? Because egoism is a kind of thinking. If the vasanas have been roasted, all the attachments, all the identifications, then in this deep, profound silence, spacious emptiness of the self becomes apparent. That's first, the veil gets lifted. What was the second idea in the sequence?
Soon follows the destruction of false understanding.
Yes. So immediately, if the mind tries to throw up ego thoughts, you know out of direct experience they aren't real. Before you have direct experience, it's all still just theory. You know when you get identified, or the mind tries to get identified. Nope, I'm not going there. You know, I can't think of a real thought. It's all Maya. So our false understanding leaves us. There may be a shakedown period until this complete reorientation of our worldview happens. For some, it may be very quick. Others, it may take a little time. I think of Ramana Maharshi. He has his enlightenment experience. He lost all interest in school, lost all interest in family. Then he leaves home, heads off to Arunachal. The time that it took for the understanding to straighten out. And what happens when the understanding straightens out?
The cessation of misery brought about by agitations created by the false knowledge.
Yes. So the Vikshepa Shakti subsides. What does that mean? The mind no longer throws up a personal sense of self. And if it tries out of habit, you know it's unreality. The mind can no longer seriously posit what's wrong with my life as people, places, things, and conditions. If that thought starts to arise, you know it's fundamental unreality. Can't take it seriously anymore. Now, in the beginning, wow, oh my God, this is incredible stuff. Ah! It's because it's new. But in time, knowledge becomes your new ordinary mind. Not a big deal after a while. And it's huge. It's huge. All the kind of extroversion that ordinary people have. I got to get a job. I got to make all this money. I got to have this. And oh, so and so is gone. And all that kind of stuff. It's just, it's gone. It's gone. No effort. It's just gone. Don't believe me. This is what the scriptures say. So far, all seem true to me. Go there. Prove or disprove it. The laboratory of your own direct experience.
So the time Ramana Maharishi was in, I guess, the caves and wherever he was essentially burning out the remnants of what was remaining.
Well, my particular view, again, the biographies are, what's the word I want to say? Hagiographic. A hagiography are the biographies of saints, which are always romanticized and embellished in every culture. Do you know what I mean? But most of them say he decides to took his dhoti, his South Indian dhoti, tore it up, made a loincloth, went to live in the crypt under the temple, and he was there, I think, for like 11 years in silence. Mind you, he was 16 when he got there. He was a kid. In samadhi, burning out all those extroversions. Not to accomplish anything. That was just his prarabdha. It was just happening. Have you ever had the experience of, I just have to go sit and go within? Who's had that experience? Yeah. No effort in it at that point. Next verse.
Section 61. Cause, effect, false. Etat tritayam drishtam samyag grajya swarupa vijnanat tasmad vastu sattvatvam jnatavyam bandhamuktat ye vidusha. These three are observed in the robe when its true nature is fully apprehended. Hence, the wise person should know the true nature of things in order to break their bonds.
So we have the false knowledge, we have the misunderstanding, and then we have the affliction. That is noticed when I'm seeing the snake and I'm all upset. When I apprehend the rope, they're gone. The snake is no longer available for perception. It cannot frighten me. Likewise, existential fear is gone. Nothing can harm you. Next point.
Ayogni yoga devasat samanvaya matra dirupena vrijam bhate dihi tatkaryame tad dvitayam yato mrisha drishtam ramaswapna manoratheshu. There's one more with this verse. Tato vikara prakrite rahammukha deha vasana vishayascha sarvai kshanenyatha bha vitaya hyamyesha sattva atma tu kadapi nanyatha. Just as a piece of iron through contact with fire manifests as fire, the intellect manifests itself as the knower and the known through the immanence of Brahman. These two, the effects of the intellect, are observed to be unreal as in delusion, dream, and imagination. So too, the modifications of Prakriti, from the ego down to the gross body and all the sense objects, are also unreal. Their unreality is indeed due to their being subject to change every moment. And the Atman never changes.
Yes. So, the person of steady wisdom gives up their concern for the conditions of the body and stupid mind states. What was the maxim I heard that I just loved? Our worries wither and die from lack of attention when I turn my mind to the end. When you screw up in the world, notice I did not say if. You've all heard me say this. One of my favorite prayers. Oops. It's never about I. Nobody has the power to make me feel anything. Why? Sarvamaya, Sarvamananda. It's all illusion. It's all bliss. Yet, understand the power of the senses. I love the story that you told about the mirrored floor and ceiling. How did tell us again? Because I get it confused.
Well, I had gone for this art exhibit in New York, and one of the rooms in the exhibit had there was it was mirrors on the floor, on the side walls, up on the ceiling, and there was a projection of something. I think just like windows or something like that. So when you look down, it just feels like it just keeps going. And so I knew it was a mirror, yet I was so scared to step on it because my mind was like, you're going to just fall.
Wow.
And it took me a few seconds to take the first step and the second step. And then I'm like, okay, this is just the floor.
But that's Maya right there. You see, what's real is a flat, hard surface. But my senses deceive me and my mind reacted. Isn't that what happened?
Yes.
There it is. There it is. That's the process. Now my senses report a world of name and form, all in relationship to a Jim, a me. It's not real. What's here? Vijnana Dhanam, a homogeneous mass of consciousness. Be happy. When the mind throws up its belief in the illusory cause and effect, your mind was telling you the cause will be I step off into nothingness, and the effect will be I fall. You're able to discard it. Next verse.
इत्याद्वयाखण्डचिदेकरूपो बुद्ध्यादिसाक्षी सदसद्विलक्षणः अहं पदप्रत्यलक्षितार्थः प्रत्यक्सदानन्दघन परात्मा. Eternal, non-dual, unbroken knowledge of one form, the witness of the intellect, etc., neither gross nor subtle, indicated by the term I, the embodiment of subjective eternal bliss, is the nature of the Supreme Self.
Yes. So, when are you ever not you? That never changes and has never changed. When have you ever ceased to shine as the prakasha, the light of pure awareness? Witness of the senses, witness of the body, witness of the feelings, witness of the thoughts, witness of that chit chaya, that reflection of consciousness in the intellect. Witness of reactivity, witness of serenity, witness of samadhi, witness of ordinary mind. And nothing touches you. Believe me. Check it out. And remember, one of the first things we go through in the art of meditation class, the pleasure principle. What's it feel like to want something? Is someone there's got some background noise online? What's it feel like to want something you don't have? It hurts. Yoga says there is no other suffering. That's it. Has three forms: raga, attachment for things; dvesha, aversion; bhaya, fear. I'm afraid I'm going to lose what I got. And when desire and object of desire become one, for a moment, the affliction of craving is temporarily abated. We call it happiness, pleasure, good time. Nothing wrong with enjoying the world in the end. Just make sure you're not dependent on it. And make sure you never forget it's temporary. It's just my mind projecting stuff. None of it is fundamentally real. Where is the mind satisfied? In the embrace of the self. Why would cities fly through the air? Cool. When you fly through the air, how will you feel? Happy. I'm going to astral project. Cool. How will you feel when you astral project? Happy. I want to make $10 million. How will you feel when you make $10 million? Why all the work? Why don't you just go for the happiness? And let the body do as it will. You will work. You will act. But for the woman or man of knowledge, it's kind of just what I do. It's no longer serious. Next one.
Itthamvipashchit sadibhyaj nishchatya tattvam nijabodhadrishtaya ज्ञात्वा स्वमात्मानम् अखण्डबोधं तेभ्यो विमुक्ता स्वयमेव शाम्यति. Thus the wise man, discriminating between the real and the unreal, establishing the truth by the insight of his knowledge, and realizing his own self to be the unbroken knowledge, becomes free and himself attains peace.
Yeah. So he sums up this section with this knowledge. What's the payoff? Peace. Not euphoria. Euphoria comes and goes. You be a Shakti junkie. That's just another worldly pleasure. God knows I love getting high. But the peace comes. Total renunciation of this world. All its forms, gross. Next one.
Can I ask a question? It seems like with this practice, what happens is that things just don't bother one as much, and things just go through. I mean, that just seems like what happens.
That's a statement, not a
Well,
question.
I mean, would you say that's true? That
Well, is it your experience?
yes.
Then it's true.
Okay.
I don't think the fruit of your practice is you're seeing lots of little pink bubbles, right? Okay, I just want to make sure. Are you seeing angels coming in and flapping around?
No.
But you have some serenity?
Yes.
Well, if it were me, I think I'd like that. You know? Sounds good to me.
I'm just asking if that is sort of what happens, right?
Well, trust your direct experience.
Yeah.
Give up needing. Is this right? Is this right? Is this right?
Okay.
That's just another attachment, sweetheart.
Okay.
Do you understand what I mean?
I do. Yeah. Yeah. It's sort of like a disbelief almost.
And this again is one of the reasons why I teach by the scriptures.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to believe Jim.
Mm-hmm.
For all you know, I'm totally full of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But there's 1,300 years of people who have venerated this text. Is your experience in alignment with what Shankar is saying?
Yes.
Okay. You will never get to go to the teacher and say, all right, Guruji, I want an enlightenment certificate. You must be in a place where your direct experience swallows all your doubts. What if your guru is an idiot? Or dies? What you want to do is find out what's real. What is that which is never subject to change, which is always there? Shankara is saying, oh my gosh, it's my very self. Vast, empty, and spacious. So then if the guru says, well, I disagree with Shankara, you're actually a little gray ball with wings. If you close your eyes and visualize and you see a little gray ball with wings, that's yourself. Is that your direct experience?
No,
You sure?
positive.
What happens if you see a little gray ball with wings?
I don't know.
Who saw it?
I did.
You know the tools.
It's not real.
It's not you if you see it. But don't come to that conclusion because Jin said it. Okay, next verse.
Section 62. Samadhi, its nature.
Yeah.
Ajnana hridaya grante nishesha vilayastada samadhina vikalpena yadadvaitatma darshanam. When the non-dual Atman is realized in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the heart's knots of ignorance are completely destroyed.
So what he's saying here, these Hridaya Granti, these knots in the hearts of ignorance. I think I'm a person. I think the world is real, and I must make efforts. Those are destroyed in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Nirvikalpa Samadhi, near without, vikalpa, a movement, a perturbation, sama equal demi. That's the etymology that I find. Absolute quiescence of mind. This is why when we're teaching meditation in the beginning, we invite people to pay attention to the space between your thoughts. A thought will arise out of silence and it will occur and then it goes back into silence. In the beginning in our meditation, it's so busy, there's no space. It's like the traffic at rush hour outside. But at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'll hear one car go by and it goes into silence. So if we slow the mind down and renounce, renounce, in the end, there's only one thing to renounce. Only one. And that is the mind itself. How do I renounce the mind? Do I get a frontal lobotomy? When the mind itself quits believing its own reality, when it grasps its own unreality, I can't think a real thought. No idea of self is real. None of my insights, conclusions, perceptions is real, including the thought I just thought. And again, using that paradigm we got out of Tripurara, Prakasha, the light of awareness. What am I aware of? Vimarsha, the deliberation of the mind. Stop the deliberation. All that's left is the Prakasha. That's who you are. Then the mind returning from those flashes goes, there's nobody there. Technical term for that is pratya vijnana, recognition. Next verse.
Tvam hami dami tiyam kalpana buddhidoshat prabhavati paramatmanya vaye nirvisheshe pravilasati samadhavasya sarvo vikalpo vilana vilayana muppa gacchedvastu tatvat dhritya you, I, this, that. These concepts are fancied in the Supreme Self, which is absolute and non-dual, due to inherent defects of the intellect. When the real nature of Brahman is realized in Samadhi, all these concepts are dissolved.
Yes. So you, I, this, that are all mental constructs. Now, those of us who studied Mandukya Upanishad with the Gaudapada Karika, in the 4th chapter, it's titled the Alata Shanti, the quenching or the pacification of the firebrand. Or I like to say the sparkler on Diwali or the 4th of July. So if you take the sparkler and it's nighttime and you make a circle with it, the circle looks real, but I cannot grab the circle and put it on my head for a little coronet or stretch it out and use it as a hula hoop. What happens to the circle when I stop moving the sparkler? It's not like a fishing reel and line. No, the circle doesn't go back into the sparkler. Do you see that? The circle in the sparkler is like the subtle intellect. when it moves with thought, that subtle intellect then becomes like a prism. Sunshine hits a prism, you put a white piece of paper underneath, you get the spectrum. It refracts. You get all the colors of the rainbow. So once that thoughting starts, it isn't just a circle. It is like a prism that then refracts as the individual knower, all sense perception, and a phenomenal world. I can prove it to you because it happens in the dream. Your one unified intellect goes from its seed form in deep sleep, and then it starts moving. And what shows up? The dream me with my dream body and a dream world and dream thoughts and feelings and all those things that go on in the dream. Isn't that your direct experience?
Yeah.
It's just my mind that made it up. Mind you, it's not just thoughts going by like Mary had a little lamb. It's not that simplistic. But it's still created by the mind. Once you see that, and you see it disappear in samadhi. See, the problem is, in the dream state, rarely do we have what they call a lucid dream. Oh gosh, this is a dream. But in samadhi, you're wide awake. The mind stops. Now, actually, all it really needs to do is thin the whole lot. We call it tanu manasa. All you need to see is I is that prakasha, that light of awareness. And this zoo called me, the individual, in my stupid ass life is just imagination. And get really quiet in meditation. Watch it all start to thin out. So you can have all these issues in your lives. You go on a meditation retreat, and by the third or fourth day, what are you even thinking about? Work, family, and stuff like that. Doesn't it kind of disappear?
Yeah.
You see, you made it all up. It's just that sparkler. Now that sparkler called the subtle intellect. Oh man, is it powerful. It literally creates my world. I, you, this, that. All of it is just Vikshepa Shakti, the projecting power of the mind. Going back to sounds experience. So initially, your senses reported this deep chasm. And at first, your mind's, its knowledge was chasm, don't step out there. Isn't that what happened?
Yeah.
But your knowledge was, no, it's an optical illusion. I know better. Then you had the courage to take the first step. You know, you could have closed your eyes. That's like deep meditation. When it's no longer available for perception. But instead, you kept your eyes open and you stepped forward. So that's like the jnani functioning in the world. Brahma Satyam Jagan Nitya. Brahman alone is real and always experienced as I, the eternal subject. All objective phenomena, gross and subtle, without exception, is nitya. Seen, stop your mind and watch your problems disappear. Thin the mind and watch them reduce. Thicken the mind, obsess about a problem, watch it get thick. Isn't that our experience? Next verse.
Shanto Danta Paramuparatah Kshanti Yukta Samadhim Kurvan Nityam Kalayati Yati Swasya Sarvatma Bhavam Tena Vidyatini Rajani Tan Sadhu Dagadva Vikalpan Brahma Kritya Nivasati Sukham Nishkriyo Nirvikalpaha. Serene, self-controlled, perfectly withdrawn from sense objects, steadfast in silently enduring, struggling to attain samadhi. The seeker always contemplates on his own self as the self in the universe, destroying by these means all imaginations which arise from the blindness of ignorance. He lives blissfully as Brahman, free from egocentric actions and oscillations of the mind.
Yes. So, as thoughts arise, you don't smash them, you quit believing them. Most importantly, when a personal sense of self arises, don't believe. Go back to your direct experience. Aham nirvikalpa. I am without any movement. Nirvikara, cause avyaktaha, without any form, I'm unmanifest. Achintya, beyond any thought. Nirupaha, without any form. How do I attain peace? Let How do I know I've got an attachment or an identification? I'm disturbed. You want to see the heart like the check engine light in your car. Cars don't have gauges anymore. It's very weird. Check engine lights. Driving along. Check engine light comes on. What does that mean when the check engine light comes on?
Something's wrong with the engine.
Something's wrong. You take it to the garage or you open the hood and fix it yourself. So if I'm disturbed, that's my check engine light. Now, trying to fix a car engine is pretty complicated stuff. You need a computer to do it nowadays. But checking my mind, my check engine light goes off. Pretty simple. Attachment, identification. That's it. One or the other. Listen carefully. This doesn't mean necessarily to change behavior. The world and its people do some pretty strange things. But if I'm disturbed, it's my check engine light. If you're running the restaurant and you've got a server with sticky fingers, they're taking money out of the till, what's the appropriate action?
You talk to them or fire them or something.
But if you get disturbed about it, how could they steal from me? I trusted them. I gave them such great opportunity. Look what they've done to me. I'm sure you never had thoughts like that, right?
Never. Of course I did.
That has nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you found kids with sticky fingers and were kind and gentle and firm at times.
Yeah.
And it didn't disturb you.
No.
Maybe made you a little sad.
Yeah, I understood.
Why? Because you have a larcenous soul too.
Yes, I do. You know me.
I know me, dear. When you know your own mind, you know everybody else's. All right, good place to quit. What verse are we on for next week?
357.
Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari